wooded, rolling countryside of Wisconsin in mid-September, an arena comes to life.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3.
In a few days, thousands of people will line these deserted banks, crowd these empty stands, focus their attention on this placid roadway, the arena. For here will be enacted the thrilling climax to a year-long battle for the United States Road Racing Championship. It's Elkhart Lakes Road America and the Road America 500.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain. On this edition of the Glory Days, our historical spotlight shines on something called the U.S. Road Racing Championship, the USRRC. Now, this was the Sports Car Club of America's first professional racing series. Its acceptance during the 60s set the stage for the hugely successful Can-Am series of the 70s. Today, we're going to relive the 1966 series finale at Wisconsin's Road America. It was a 500-mile race, a particularly stern test for cars and drivers, and it produced a magnificent finish. Let's join the action now with host Les Kiter and pit reporter Chris Economaki.
The arena, 4 miles of road course ribboned across the rolling kettle moraine country of central Wisconsin. The competitors will hurl themselves around this circuit 200 times, vying for the Road Racing Championship of the United States. And in the track, they have a formidable adversary. After rocketing down this straightaway at up to 170 miles per hour, they stand on their brakes into a 90-degree left-hander, leading to a short uphill stretch. A quick blind left-hander, then a brief, severe test of driver skill, intricate turns, short burst straights. Another highlight, the 180-degree carousel turn, a test of the car's handling and driver's skill. Then a 110-mile-an-hour right-hander into a sweeping series of minor turns, which the best drivers will make one straightaway. Hard right of Canada corner, then uphill under the bridge, the car light but at high speed. A sweeping turn and back to the main straightaway. 500 miles in this arena demands the most of car and driver. Before any car takes to the track, tech inspection, a fine tooth-comb double check to make sure these sports racing machines conform to the Sports Car Club of America regulations. The cars are rigorously examined, concluding with a brake test. Current point leader Chuck Parsons' Chevy-powered McLaren Mark II passes muster, as does front-runner Buck Fulp's Chevy-powered Lola. The Lola and McLaren chassis, made in England, dominate the road racing scene today, mostly powered by giant American power plants, Fords or Chevrolets. The RA sticker means approved and ready for practice. But practice and qualification are bogged down in a heavy rain-fog combination, dampening spirits and slowing speeds. The arena is virtually a walk. But this is an all-weather sport, and with the Road Racing Championship of the United States at stake, practice slushes on. Typical of this 4-year-old championship, it's a race to the wire. With 8 contests completed, it remains to this, the 9th and final, to decide the champion. While the others have been 200-mile sprint races, Road America is a 500-mile endurance contest, a factor which figures in everyone's plan. Current point leader, Chuck Parsons.
I think the equipment will take it. We have real good equipment. I have all the confidence in the world in it. I've never run 500 miles myself, but I'm sure I can do it. I think it's probably easier to run 500 on this track than it is, for instance, to run 200 on Mid-Ohio track last week, especially with the heat.
You plan to baby your car?
Well, we don't plan to baby it, but we don't plan to abuse it. We're just try to stay in the first 5. You just have to sort of figure it after the race gets started.
Behind Parsons in points, Carolinian Buck Fulp in a Lola Chevy.
We feel real good about the car, Chris. The guys have got the car in real good shape. And the only thing that we're a little concerned about now is the weather.
In third place with a mathematical chance to win, Skip Hudson, Lola Chevy.
Well, this is a 500-mile race. It's different than the other 7 races in this series, and it's going to require a completely different approach. It's rather a cross between a sprint race and, say, a Sebring type thing. One is going to have to make the car live and go fast and safely.
Out of the championship race, but a definite overall threat, Charlie Hayes.
I expect to see about 25% finish. I don't think very many cars will finish this race. The big championship sports cars aren't really designed to go sort of 500 miles, you know. And the only thing you can do is just try to make everything as strong as possible and just hope.
International ace, Dr. Dick Thompson.
Well, our car's not as fast as the others. In theory, it's more durable. And we hope by the last hour of the race, we should be competitive.
Strategy for this championship 500-miler has taken on new shades of complexity, especially for top contenders Parsons and Fulp.
Well, I'm driving with Bob Johnson and Charlie Cole, and Charlie has a Dino Ferrari. And if it rains, we feel like that car might work real well, because he did a real fine job up at Mid-Ohio in it last week. That's Charlie.
When would you move into that car? At what point in the race?
Well, as I understand it, for the points to count, you need 35 laps in any given car. So along about the latter part of the race, just as long as I can get 35 laps in it.
Yes, we have the second car. In fact, we have 3 cars that are signed on in case something happens to one of them. In the first 80 laps, I signed on Lothar Maschenbacher's car and Matt Cron's car.
When will you make the change, if necessary?
Well, Matt Cron and I will change at the halfway mark, and if everything's working fine then, I won't drive Maschenbacher's, but if something happens, as long as I can still get 35 laps in Lothar's car, I'll change to it. So it's sort of an insurance policy.
Qualifying times are slowed by rain, but Charlie Hayes quickly shows he means business with a Nicky Vinegaroon special owned by Dan Blocker. He'll start in the pole position.
You know, motor racing holds a powerful attraction for showbiz people. Perhaps that's because they can afford our rather expensive pastime. In 1966 at Road America, the most famous face on pit road was not Chuck Parsons or Buck Fulp. No, it was Dan Blocker, Haas, from the hit television series Bonanza. Keep an eye out for him now as we rejoin the battle for the U.S. Road Racing Championship.
By race day, the arena is swathed in sunshine, and the rain tires are stacked away for another day. The inexorable countdown to the flag ticks methodically along as drivers and cars gather on the grid. Chuck Parsons' practically faultless McLaren isn't the latest, but it's been dependable the year long. Parsons, speedster Charlie Hayes, and many others are running Chevy power plants. Ford, Olds, and Porsche power most of the rest. Elkhart's guiding genius, promoter Cliff Tufte, traditionally lightens the final tense moments. For Hayes and the 43 other starters, there's little to do now but fuss with the final adjustments of helmet, gloves, seat belts. They're ready. Finally, the signal to pace the course once around. 44 Chargers underway at last to pit themselves against each other and the demands of the arena. Hayes wins the pit straight drag race for the lead. Chuck Parsons is second. Mac Cron third. Skip Hudson, fourth. Buck Fulp, fifth. Hayes is first past the pits on lap 1 to establish a pattern he'll maintain for the next 40 laps. Parsons follows. Fulp is fifth. Hayes in number 98 and Parsons in number 10 are racing as if it's a 200-mile sprint race, with only a few of the 500 miles under their wheels. Lothar Mutzenbacher in the number 96 Nicky Chevrolet begins a phenomenal chase from his sixth spot. The young Californian has passed Skip Hudson and Mac Cron to move into fourth. Up front is Hayes continuing his lead with Parsons and Mac Cron in number 77, second and third. Mutzenbacher has caught Parsons just before the carousel and strains to make it final. Hayes has about a 15-second lead now on second place Mutzenbacher and third place Parsons. Hayes leads the way down the long pit straight, but it's Parsons next. Mutzenbacher's in trouble. It's early for a gas stop, and they have the hood up. TV's Hoss, sponsor of the car, lends a hand. But from the looks of things, fuel is the least of their troubles. Mutzenbacher is the first of the front runners to yield to Road America's demands. But he's not out yet, and a 500-mile race claims lots of victims. So a quick repair job could keep Lothar in the running.
Just a quick word of warning now before we go back to Road America for the finish. Watch closely or you'll miss that finish. It apparently sneaked up on a lot of people that day, but it was a good one.
Young Earl Jones, relatively inexperienced, is doing a fine job out front. Third place Hudson Pitt. Oil's added as well as fuel. A potential trouble spot in this 500-mile grind. An oil-eating engine is a definite handicap. Hudson, who has a remote mathematical chance to win the title, gets back in third place. Parsons calls for his second time. It appears Chuck is going to drive the entire 500 miles without relief. The affable Californian is as able a mechanic as he is a driver. Parsons wastes no time and manages to hold second place as he returns. The order then approaching halfway is Jones first. Parsons second. Hudson third. Buzetta Mitter fourth. Mutzenbacher fifth. Jones brings the lead car in for Hayes to take over. They add oil this time, which could mean trouble later. But for the moment, the Hayes-Jones Combine owns first place. A quick stop here before Parsons gets by would preserve a one-lap margin. Chuck flashes by before Hayes can regain the track. Let's hear from Jones.
How's the track out there, Earl?
It's just fine.
No oil or anything on it?
There's a few beds. There's a few spots that are a little bit slippery, but nothing to really worry about.
You motored right by Parsons. Did he give you a race?
Well, no, there's no race going on out there as such right now. It's just a race to finish, to last.
You look confident. You think the car can go the distance?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. These guys that work on this car are just super. It's the best built car out here, I think.
Well, you did a fine job, and congratulations.
Thank you.
By lap 100 of this 125-lap contest, Parsons is leading again. Hayes is chasing hard in second place. Hudson holds third. Buzetta Mitter fourth. And the surprising Mutzenbacher is back in the top 5. Driver and car endurance come into play now as Parsons determinedly holds on to first, despite the onrushing Hayes and the persistent Hudson. Hayes has to pit. Looks like oil trouble for the Nicky Special, and certainly at a time when Hayes doesn't want to be wasting any. And onrushing Parsons could lap Hayes right here. Hayes gets out in time despite a wake of oil, which doesn't indicate all's well with the McLaren Chevy. Parsons is still first on the same lap with a charging Hayes, and 3 laps ahead of third place Skip Hudson. Mutzenbacher's having the ride of a lifetime, now up to 5th after his long stop earlier. Hudson's forced to pit. Oil trouble for Skip, too, which puts his third place spot in jeopardy for Mutzenbacher, who's very close now and in the same lap. Hudson will have to get with it. Only laps left. Hayes is back in first, having caught the tiring Parsons, who's now second on the same lap. Hudson is third. Mutzenbacher fourth. The real race now is between Hayes and Parsons. Parsons can win the championship by finishing second, but he looks like he's going to try for all the marbles. And Parsons nips Hayes on the last lap to win the Road America 500 and the Road Racing Championship. A word from an exhausted Parsons in a moment. Unassuming Chuck Parsons wins a tremendous solo victory. The official margin over Hayes, 1/1000th of a second. And a new road racing champion of the United States is crowned. Let's hear from the exhausted but obviously happy champ.
Are you sorry you won it alone?
No, not really. The car's running beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
You had your troubles, though, didn't you? The spoiler fell off, and then we saw some sparks come from underneath it.
I'm having brake problems, too. I think the brake pads are getting about wore out. I'm having trouble stopping it. Let me wipe this off.
Well, let me be the first to congratulate you on becoming the 1966 United States Road Racing Champion, Chuck Parsons.
Thank you very much.
Hayes drove a great race with Earl Jones to finish second overall after leading 99 out of the 125 laps. Skip Hudson finished third, 2 laps down to Hayes and Parsons. The Buzetta Mitter Porsches took under 2-liter honors and 5th overall. From the champion to the back markers, everyone knew he had been in a race. 500 miles over the demanding Road America course is the ultimate test.
In claiming the Sports Car Club of America's most prestigious title back in '66, Chuck Parsons added his name to a championship roster that would eventually include Bob Hobart, Jim Hall, George Foamer, and Mark Donohue. His out-of-the-blue last lap pass on Charlie Hayes will be remembered forever as one of the great finishes in series history. These days, Chuck is enjoying his retirement on his beloved Monterey Peninsula. He hasn't left there in 40 years. The idea of professional sports car racing, born with the USRRC, proved to be a good one. 25 years later, the SCCA and its spin-off rival, the International Motorsports Association, organized thriving Pro Series for everything from showroom stocks to high-dollar prototypes. But it all began back in the glory days with the U.S. Road Racing Championship. We'll see you next time with another motorsports memory. Until then, I'm Dave Despain. Thanks for joining us.